Can I tell you a funny story? Well, I thought was funny. Actually, I thought it was ridiculous.
Okay.
So Lauren's like, do we have ice cream? I'm like, I think maybe, I don't know. She's like, do we have M&Ms? I'm like, well, yeah, we've got M&Ms in there. She's like, don't we still have Oreos? I'm like, we still got Oreos in there. Why? What are you doing? I found this TikTok on, did you know you could make a blizzard at home? And I was like, what the fuck? She's like, yeah, I found it on TikTok. I'm like, it took TikTok for you to realize that you can make a blizzard at home? Like, it's literally the shit mixed into the ice cream. It's not rocket
science.
Though?
Is it?
It is.
Because I think when you guys made it, I don't know that the consistency would have allowed for that.
I tipped my cup over, and it absolutely did. Yes, it did.
Do you have any proof of that?
I didn't take a picture of it. No, I ate the entire thing.
So what I'm hearing you say is you don't have any proof of that.
What I'm telling you is, back in 1990, I was making blizzards in a blender.
Wait, so you mean to tell me Dairy Queen took that idea from you?
Here's the update. Here's the update. No. They absolutely did it because I got it from them. But all I'm saying is, I didn't have a social media app to tell me that I could do this. I just thought, I went there, I was like, you know what? I got a blender. I'm pretty sure I can make this at home when I want to, on my own.
Yeah. And
so I did, and it worked just fine. And so I guess the update is that you can use the KitchenAid mixer. That's what brought this up, was the KitchenAid mixer. Right. You can do it. And so she put the ice cream and she put the cookies. She's like, should I crumble these up? I'm like, Lauren, you need to follow
Figure it out.
Whatever TikTok said. Do it like TikTok said. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I am backing out.
I've already told you can do it. Now you go figure it out.
Right. And so she doesn't crumble the Oreos up. She's just hoping that the KitchenAid mixer does it. I don't know. I don't pay any attention. My mind is completely blown that it took TikTok telling her that she could do this with a KitchenAid mixer for her to think that she could do this. And I'm scared for our future. If you've tuned in to see if you can argue with your spouse and still be madly in love, you're in the right spot.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Annie.
And we're the Kilkos. Sound like a game show.
We're your host of Life's Little Arguments. We're not trained experts in love and marriage. Actually, we might be quite dysfunctional, but we have been happily married for 16 years.
Debatable.
Not only will we share all the ups and downs of marriage, but the ins and outs of raising his and her kids, growing through new jobs and opportunities, and our latest obsession, our empty nest babies, our dogs, Blakely and Lincoln.
So if you hear ding, ding, ding across the microphone, they're probably walking across the floor.
Listen in each week while we discuss our life, current events, random TikToks, and the little arguments that undoubtedly come up. Whether you're in a long-term relationship yourself or in a fresh new relationship, we hope you find our podcast fun, entertaining, and helps you realize there is a normal in life's little arguments. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No. Yeah, it's funny to me because, I think without the, I say without the internet, but hell, you look at me at 46 now versus
you do everything with the internet.
Right. Like when we first got together, I'm not the most mechanically inclined person anyways. But when we first got together, it was like if I needed something at the house fixed, Brian, what do I do? Dad,
exactly.
What do I do? But now I just go to YouTube or,
and
TikTok.
Here I thought it was just you getting older and more mature. And it turns out it's just because the internet has gotten better and you can search things that you need versus calling Brian.
It's both. I have gotten better, but it is, I'm much more efficient with it because I know that I can go seek it out. So anyhow, I say all that to say that I think it's the kids, but hell, I've gotten to where I do it like that as well. Not to say, can I make a blizzard or not? That's the extreme.
Exactly.
But
like I YouTube how to start a podcast or, how do I connect all of this equipment because I'm not knowledgeable about that. Not to figure out that it takes ice cream and toppings to mix together to make a fucking blizzard.
It was a good blizzard, though.
What in the hell? But it's not just Lauren. I'm not
How
blaming
did you
Lauren.
make your blizzard?
I am blaming Lauren, but it's also not blaming Lauren because there are these kids on TikTok that are showing these other kids, and I'm like, what in the hell have we done? What are these kids going to do?
What's even crazier when the kids are like, oh my God, it's so freaking awesome. I never thought about it.
Exactly, which is what Lauren did.
Yeah. So
yes. So I am afraid for the future of What is that noise?
I don't know.
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
What happens when TikTok goes away?
First of all, I don't think TikTok's going away, but if not, it'll be replaced by Red Baron. What's it called? Red Boom?
Red Note, I think.
Red Note,
My
yeah.
hip is
Have you
killing me again.
downloaded Red Note, by the way?
I've not downloaded it yet. I'm gonna wait to see if TikTok really goes away.
I'm gonna see if
I'm not believer.
But you did send me something showing how to save your TikTok videos. So
I
if
did.
you want to transition from TikTok into Red Note, and maybe this is your chance. Maybe this is your chance to have the best Red Note ever. Maybe it's a chance for me to start over from TikTok to Red Note.
Same. And I downloaded my stuff just so I would have the videos, so in case I wanted to use those videos again. And I also downloaded my who I'm following, so in case.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I don't really care so much about that. I can figure that out again, but it was like all one thing. You could do your videos, it would do who you're following and who's following you, and then your favorites.
Man, I'm just trying to think of the conspiracies that are going to come from this.
Oh yeah.
What is China trying to get from us here in the last little bit of time? What is,
Oh yeah.
whatever American company may or may not buy this, what are they trying to get from it? There'll be conspiracies just on downloading this stuff.
And I only did it because I don't want to have to remake some of these videos possibly. I could just put them onto my computer and upload them somewhere else if I want to. Or the fact that I had some recipes that were saved. I'm like, I don't really want to write these down. I don't want to screenshot them. Let me just save them just in case.
But I don't know how true this is, but what I heard was that TikTok is not going anywhere. The difference is they're no longer going to be able to have it on the App Store or Google Play, which means that the 400 million people that currently have TikTok will still have TikTok, and it'll still function, and it's just new people, if you will, that have been under a rock for how many ever years that do not have TikTok will have the inability to download it. That's what I've heard. Again, until something really happens. But the incoming administration has also gone on record and said that he's been shown report after report, graph after graph, and he's like, I did quite well. I did quite well with voters on TikTok. And, because he did quite well, he's like, I think I might have to rethink this TikTok thing. Because they showed me some reports, and I did quite well. I had billions and billions of people.
That's also my question. Are we still going to be able to shop on TikTok Shop? Is that going to?
Who knows? I don't think anyone knows. I mean, it's so far above our head, and without the algorithm, it doesn't really matter anyways. But I do know that Trump has said he's going to rethink this TikTok thing. Yeah. So it'll be interesting what his take on it is once he gets in office. So.
And somebody sent me one of the memes or the TikToks that somebody making fun of, Red Note, and basically it went through every single social media platform and what they don't give you that they're trying to replace that TikTok has, and it was quite funny. But yeah, so we'll see. This is happening in a couple of days. So I don't know. There's a part of me it's okay, I'm okay with it if it goes away and I have to move to another platform, because that gives me an opportunity to try a different strategy maybe, because my followers right now are mainly guys. I had that one TikTok that blew up, and it was because I said I was posting bikini pictures, which I was not, but just because I said that, I just had a ton of skeezy, gross guys follow me. So stuff that I do now that's relationship related or just menopause women, they're that's not their jam. And so that hurts me. That backfires for me. So I don't know. It's
I wish I could tell you. I wish
situation.
I could tell you what my makeup is. You've shown how me to get there before and whatnot. I love TikTok. I do not like Instagram. Instagram does not like me.
Yeah, the Instagram it's just not as easy. It's not as easy. Reels, it's not hard to make a reel, but you don't have as much of the functionality as you do in TikTok. Yeah. And it's not the same functionality. And then they just do not perform. They do not perform like a TikTok possibly performs. It's just totally different. So
anyways, we'll see what happens. I personally don't think a ban is going to happen. Or if it does, it's still months away. It's kind of like when the government every 2 years says they're going to shut down if they don't pass the budget, yada, yada, yada. And then right at the last minute, somebody caves.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
kind of
government's
what I'm
still.
assuming
I think
happen.
it's probably going to happen. There's just too much at stake.
Yeah, that's
But think about these. I say younger kids. It's not all younger kids, but just think about these people that are legit This is their career that they're
What
making.
is that noise?
They're making. It's probably my beard going against my Marty
it's
McFly
like a
sweater.
motor running.
Yeah. So, anyways, think about these people that are legit making their careers and their livelihood off this. Now, if it does, that's man, we're gonna have a real big problem. But someone did ask, and I think this is a legitimate question. I can't remember if we were talking about this or not. If TikTok is your means of income, and that's how you make all your money, and of course you have to pay taxes on that,
right?
Somehow, if TikTok goes away, do you have the right to file unemployment against the government?
Against the government?
Or against an entity. I don't know who it would be against, but if the government is the one that bans TikTok, in essence putting you out of employment, should you have the right to file unemployment?
How does unemployment work? But like, if you are self-employed, can you file unemployment?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's a
you're
very
not
good
employed. You're not technically employed.
Employed by the government.
You're a 1099 or whatever
that's
that
fair.
is. So
I heard that question asked, and I was like, I think that's actually the first thing that came to my mind. And then I thought, well, I don't know, maybe you could, but then I didn't really think you could. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably different on different levels because you got like the TikTok shop where you've got like sellers, and then you've got like you get paid for views. So
yeah.
I don't really know. I don't care also. Don't care about that whole situation.
So if y'all have not downloaded Red One, I have not,
No, I'm not going to do that just yet. Well, first of all, you're saying Red One, and I think that's the movie.
Red Note, right,
yes.
So, Red One's a new Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's Christmas
Red
movie.
Note, shout out.
So we left off last podcast talking about... I was going to talk about the podcast that I had listened to. The TikTok, first of all, it got me... I was going down the rabbit hole with this on TikTok.
Is this the catfish one?
Yes, this is the catfish one. So, and then it directed me to the podcast. And so I listened to the podcast. And so I kind of wanted to share it because it was so wackadoodle that it's insane. But we have a daughter that is in the age range of what was happening to these girls. So I thought, okay, let's talk about that. Like, let's just kind of talk through that and how we would feel and handle it as parents. And then, like, what are your personal thoughts about it? Because my initial reaction was, what in the hell is going on with these kids that they're falling for this? So let me just give you the backstory and how this worked. There is this chick, girl, woman, whatever you want to call her. Her name is Jess. She made a profile. She took this guy's pictures, okay? First of all, she stole these guys' pictures, right? And she made a profile for him on, like, dating apps. And then made profiles for him, on everything that you could possibly make a profile on. And used the name Brody, okay? So what she would do is she would go onto these dating apps and find people that she apparently... I don't know if she was interested in them. That's really never been determined if she's, like...
that's how she selected them or whatever.
Yeah, that's how she meets up with them, is typically through the dating app. They match on the dating app and they start talking through the dating app. And these girls will fall for Brody. He's a good-looking guy. He's saying all the right things. Everything, I guess, that, a girl would want to probably hear of, you're beautiful,
which
and you're
she
smart,
would know
you're
because
intelligent.
She's a woman, yeah.
Right. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I have a good job. Like, I have a dog, all those kind of things. And so, very interested in these girls, and they continue talking. They take it, offline, like texting or whatever. Well, the catch here is that these girls, even after texting with this Brody for weeks, months, have never actually spoken to him on the phone. He would not FaceTime. He would not actually send pictures of his face. Like, there was no... Well, he would send pictures of his face because she would send... Yeah. But there was you could not hear a voice at all. And that was that's my first red flag of, like, hold up, what the fuck? What? The first time I said, let's have a phone call, and you're like, no, I can't. I'm like, okay, I might let that one slide. I can't because I'm at work right now.
Yeah.
Possibly. But that's when my spidey senses start tingling immediately. But it doesn't faze these girls. These girls get so far and wrapped up with this Brody that and they all talk about it on the podcast. They all say Brody. Brody said this and Brody said that. It's never, Jess is Brody. It's literally Brody is a person.
So they've interviewed all these girls, I guess.
Yes, and let me just it's such a spider web, it's crazy. And so what'll happen is they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll talk and like almost to the point of like we're in a relationship, but I really want to meet you in person. Can you fly and come see me? Or can you drive 8 hours and come see me? And these girls say yes.
And then what happens?
They say yes. They get on planes, Kent, and they fly across the country. And then
he ghosts them.
When they get to the airport, no, he doesn't ghost them. He works in a hospital and he's had an emergency and he can't get away. Or he's in med school and something's happened and he's got to go do this, or there's always some sort of emergency that takes him away from being able to come pick them up or meet them at the airport, right? And so what he does is he says, but my best friend Jess, I would love for you to meet her. She's able to come pick you up. Would that be okay with you? And of course, what are these girls going to do? They're stuck at a freaking airport all the way across the country or somewhere.
And they probably think he's at least sending somebody. That's so sweet.
Somebody that he knows. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm sure if he's saying I'll like her, I'm sure I'll like her. So then Jess, as herself, gets to enter the picture.
Wow.
And she will go pick these girls up. And then because she's a girl and because...
She already knows them.
Yeah, she knows everything about them.
Yeah.
She knows everything about them so that she
Brody
can
told me this about you. Brody told me that.
And not even that. Like, she might not even say, Brody told me. She might be like, oh, what kind of music do you listen to? I like, let's just say...
Alternative.
New Kids on the Block. I like I'm New Kids on the Block girl. And Jessica be like, oh my God, I am too.
Yeah.
Or make a suggestion knowing the answer already because she's interacted with them as Brody. And that way it has that sense of, okay, you're like me, so I like you. Because people tend to like people that are like them, right? We know that. That's a psychology type of thing. And she reels them in and she reels them in. And she's like, she vouches for Brody and I know him and he's a good guy and we hang out and we do this. And it's not just Brody. She makes up or made up. It's like she uses like one guy in this entire family. She has the brother. She makes up the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, the everybody. And what's weird is I don't know what kind of app that she has, but she literally has an app that must be able to send you text from all these different numbers. From her one phone, because these girls will be in the same room with her and they all say it. They're like, Jess is she's very on her phone all the time. She's just all the time on her phone, but they don't think anything about it. Never once does it cross their mind that she's just over there texting all the time. Because
it looks like it's coming from Lisa or whoever.
It says Brody. It says Brody. It says Brody's brother. It says Brody's sister. It says, whatever. And so that's the first level of like manipulation and craziness.
So how long did this go on?
Years.
Shut up.
And I'm talking, there were at least I can think of like 5 girls on the podcast. They have come up with, I bet, 20 or 25 girls that this has happened to.
And for years, he continued to make these same excuses.
This girl dated, quotation marks, dated Brody for 4 years. Never saw never spoke to him on the phone.
Okay, but at what point do you say,
I know,
you're the red flag?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I get kind of getting tied up in the whole online thing.
Okay, so let me tell you what happens. So this is not where it starts. The manipulation goes so much deeper. So once he reels them in, whatever, and you can tell they're taken with this Brody. Like, he's love bombed them. He's said all the right things. He wants to be with them. He wants to meet them.
Have you gone to look up Brody to see what Brody even looked like? Is that possible?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should go look and see what Brody looks like.
They use a great look. I mean, he's a good looking guy.
Well,
he's a kid.
Does he look like me? Does he resemble me?
He's like a young version of you. Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, 20s. Right. But so then once they're like, okay, I'm tired of this. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Then he goes into, you're going to make me want to kill myself.
Oh no, and holds that over them.
Yes. If you do this, I'm gonna hurt myself. I'm gonna do this. Or he gets into these horrific accidents and he's in the hospital and he's in a coma, and you've got his brother then texting you, do you know where he is? We can't find him. Or he's in the hospital, he's in a coma. We don't know if he's gonna make it. Like, it's this horrible manipulation, because what are you gonna do at that time? Like, you're not thinking at that point,
I'm going to dump the guy while he's on his deathbed.
Yeah, or this guy is fake. Like, I have so many people that are texting me telling me this guy is
There's
real.
no way they would tell me that if he wasn't.
There's no way this many people is what you're thinking in on it.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest scheme, and it's not like she's not trying to get money out of these girls. I was just about to ask,
what was she trying to get?
It literally is just, I think, for control and manipulation. They did say, so they've taken it as far as they can take it with wherever they live, and they finally have gotten some like FBI people like involved with some sort of digital, I don't know what they call it, but anyway, they're trying to get her on some sort of federal type charges to actually give her like time in jail for this, because it's happened so many times.
So I wonder if, I'll say something about that in a second, but I wonder if how much of it's like control and manipulation, and where does that come from? Like, are we going to find out that happened to her at some point in her life, or is it just a complete adrenaline rush?
I have no idea.
They've never interviewed this girl on the podcast.
No, she won't. We've heard her voice, and she's on social media. She is still out there doing this. That's what's scary. Is literally up through I think this podcast was originally recorded and released back in 2023.
So here's what
I just found it, and as of me finding it a month ago, this chick is still out there doing this to other people.
So what made me think about that is, you remember we watched that Tinder Swindler?
Yeah.
That some bitch didn't get in trouble. Well, he got a little slap on the wrist, and then he went back to doing the same thing. And I'm like, so anyways, when you say the FBI or whoever's getting involved, like, the difference is she's just manipulating people. He was
actually taking money.
Taking thousands of dollars. Yes. Now you could argue that they were voluntarily giving it to him.
And they were.
And that's why I suppose there weren't. But I'm like, I guarantee you they being the enforcement learned something from that Tinder swindler.
So we watched another one that was on Netflix or something. And you remember, it was the lady, they were in the UK or something, England, and it was like an 8-year relationship. Do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
Anyway, it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
And it was her cousin. The one on Netflix or wherever.
Shut up.
It was her cousin that was doing this.
I
and
probably fell
it
asleep.
really was the exact same thing.
That's
it was
crazy.
The exact same situation.
Are you sure it was not about the same?
No, it was not, because I guarantee they probably will make one about this eventually, but it's not. There's already one out there, and this one, the difference in this one is, she is doing this to multiple girls at the same time. So like, there were 2 different girls that she was doing this to, and she invited both of them to this going away party for her, and she was like manipulating them, saying, oh, you're going to want to sit down there because these girls over here, like, I don't know, she doesn't like you for whatever reason, I don't really know why. And then telling this girl, you're going to sit down here because, these girls over here, like, they don't like you, I don't really know why. And they were at the same fucking dinner, both getting catfished by this same chick at the exact same time.
So there's no way this girl had a job. Like, this was...
She did. That's what was the crazy thing. They're like, this chick could not have slept, because she was... And what's scary, they were in the medical field. I'm trying to remember what they did. Oh, respiratory therapist. That's why I was like, ding, 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 because, we know a respiratory therapist. And that's what they were doing. That's what this chick does for a living. It is scary.
Wow.
And so that's the other thing, is like, she knew all the medical terminology, all the right things to say when they were asking, like, she was creating these huge car accidents and things that this Brody was in. They were saying all the right things, because a lot of these girls were also nurses or respiratory therapists or something in that
So they heard somebody talking symptoms and treatment, and they were like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And so here's
what she was hoping to get out of it.
Okay, so here's the other part of it, is she got pictures. She got, that's the other level of it, is that it got intimate. These relationships got intimate as well, as in
sexting and pictures and videos.
One girl was even talking about she had a vibrator apparently that is connected to some sort of app. Like, it's not just a remote. Like, there's apparently some sort of app that goes with this vibrator. And anybody, you give them the log on, they can log on to this app. And if you can use the vibrator. And so there's one girl, like, she gave Brody the access to, the log on for this app. And to use that, and I can only assume that they were on the phone at the same time, or like, not phone, but Snapchat. They used a lot of Snapchat. So I guess there is something along the sexual abuse or crime, like it's like a sexual
Someone
crime.
Someone took advantage of her
to some degree that they might be able to get charges brought on her for. Again, that's a very high summary of this entire thing.
I'm intrigued now. So there's no show on this yet. This is just on podcast.
There's no show on it, but I listened to the podcast. I enjoyed it. It did go a little bit long because all the stories were exactly the same. I mean, she didn't change names. And that was the thing.
She probably couldn't. Like, I mean, you can only keep up with so much.
But she kept up with so many lies. It was insane. And
I want to see this girl.
Dude, one of the girls that she was catfishing, they roomed together, talked her into being her roommate for 4 years, catfished this chick and was the roommate of her for 4 years.
I mean, I get
and this one, like, she controlled her to the point of, like, she had cameras all over the house, and she knew when this chick worked at home, and when this chick decided she wanted to, like, go out with maybe other friends or something, that's when Brody would start the texting of, you're such a slut, you just want to go out and have sex with other dudes, and like, what, I don't even know why you want to be with me and all this. I mean, to the point of, first of all, you have zero, like, you have no self-confidence. You're what's the word I'm looking for?
Desperate?
No, you're
insecure.
Yeah, you're insecure. You're like, you feel horrible about yourself, and so to the point of it just drove her from being friends with anybody and just staying at home, and like her depression got so bad, and just it was insane. And like, it also interviewed the moms of a couple of these girls, and both of these moms were like, we met Jess, we thought she was the nicest person, and like, and this Jess chick has a son.
Jeez.
And this son talks about Brody.
Wow. So it almost makes me wonder if there was, and I mean, I think I'm probably stating the obvious, but like with the sexting and the videos and, keeping girls from wanting to go out and do it, like I almost wonder if there was like a hidden kind of lesbian.
Yeah, that's what one of them said. They wondered about that. And I guess, I mean, I don't know that we'll necessarily know, but.
We're going to know. She's going to have to come out at some point.
Somebody's
going to make a documentary. We got to find this girl.
We have. Like, she's out there in the open.
What does she look like?
She's on TikTok. She's got an Instagram. She's on, like, Facebook. Like, she's not hiding this.
Do you know her name?
Even with this podcast out here, she is not.
Name?
No, I'd have to go search it.
We're going to have to. That's a project after this. We're going to go look her up. This is, I'm intrigued.
And she is still doing this. And she does it primarily in Louisiana. She was in Louisiana. She was in... I feel like it was not, maybe Louisiana doesn't seem right. Like Idaho.
I'm fully vested in this now. Just from you talking about this.
Insane.
And what is the name of the podcast?
The podcast is called Something Was Wrong. And if I remember correctly, it was season 20, I believe.
Oh, okay. So let's go back to Something Is Wrong. The podcast is not just about this.
No, this is a girl she's like an investigative journalist. And so she does.
Internet sleuth.
She has credentials.
Okay.
And so she does this, and she actually, the people that she works with, she tries to help them move this farther along, like getting in touch with the authorities and the FBI, and That's awesome. Pushing this further. And so, and I don't have any idea how long it took them to record this podcast, but I do recall it being released in like 2023, and this chick is still out here.
I'm downloading.
Doing this.
I'm going to start listening to this tomorrow.
It is insane, crazy pants, and you just have to kind of listen to it from the beginning. I will say, towards the end of the podcast, I was like, okay, like I get it. Like this is what Jess does.
It's kind of like when you read a book, it's like they start repeating themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
that's normally when I check out.
The two moms on there, the one was very like, I trusted Jess. I've kept Jess's son for her. They've stayed at our house before. They went on vacation with them. Like, they took her and the son in and treated them like their own. And yet she's still doing this. And she was doing this in like high school. Like, they found people that she went to like high school with, and she was doing this in high school. Found people that she was in college with and did it to them in college. And then these girls now. And then the other mom, which I felt very drawn to, because she was like, I could tell from the first time I met her, there was something about her I didn't like.
You were the one.
There was an energy, but and of course, she's cussing the whole time too. But it's just like, when you have somebody that is in that, how, like, there's no amount of you basically saying this doesn't seem right to get them to recognize
right,
it. Right,
because then they're going to think you're just saying that because you're jealous because you don't have a relationship, or someone doesn't love you as much as Brody loves me.
And it's really scary, and it's sad to think that these girls are getting what, we didn't have that. Yeah. And I'm trying to relate to it.
I was going to ask you, like, if you think about, so I understand, I can see how people can get into the whole, conversing and somebody saying something that you like and kind of get it. But how long do you think it would take you to, say we're not married, obviously, but how long do you think it would take you if you were in one of those girls' positions to kind of, let's say you bought into this, and you're like, okay, I'm texting, we're flirting, whatever. How many times do you think it would take him coming up with an excuse to not have a video call or a phone call or, meet you at the, like, how many times do you think you would?
I think more than once. I think the first time, okay, depending on what the excuse is, I think I could rationalize that. Yeah. The second time, I feel like spidey senses are going off. But however, I'm saying that as a 49-year-old woman. Sure. So there's a lot of life experience that goes into that, and your spidey senses like dinging, so as, can 21-year-old Annie answer that? I don't know that I can. Yeah. I think it would be difficult, but it makes me think about Lauren, because she's in that age range of when this was, starting to happen to some of these girls. And it's like, how do you help them through that? Yeah. And these girls, they're traumatized.
I bet.
They literally, they call it, they were saying it was emotional terrorism, basically. Yeah. The way that he would do the whole, start texting you as soon as you left the house, and you're a slut and you don't love me.
You're controlling every part of your life, every aspect of your life.
He would go as much to, like, they would be about to meet. He's right there. He's out in the parking lot, but then something happens and it's a fight. And like, I'm not coming in, and you don't love me, and you're a slut, and blah, blah, blah. It's always something.
100% control.
And as soon as they're this close to walking away, it's something dramatic happens.
Yeah. And you always wonder, so, obviously this is not the first time something like this has happened. Or you think about a Tinder swindler and stuff like that. It's like, it's always easier said than done, but you're like, sometimes these look to be attractive women. They look to be intelligent women. They look like they could, by all accounts, have normal relationships and be perfectly fine with it. But there's just something about them that, and it's odd too, because I guarantee you, Brody, or whatever the person's name is, I guarantee you there's some characteristic of these girls that he, she, whatever, looked for.
There's got to be.
Yeah, and it's just like serial killers. They don't, most of them don't just randomly go pick that. There's something about this particular. These are smart girls. Yeah.
They had degree, like they had jobs. They were, working jobs. There was
probably something on each of them's profile that kind of started to paint a picture.
And who knows what it was? And it's so weird. It's just so incredibly weird how they were the ones that fell for this. And then they also interviewed the real Brody. Like, he wants to press charges as well.
The one that the pictures were of and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that she continues. And he also said there are pictures that she has that there's no way that she could have these pictures. They've never been put online anywhere. So he's like, how did she get these pictures?
She's hacked in his system or something.
I don't know.
That goes get to the illegal part of it too.
So. Yeah. It's and that's not good for him too, because then you got, if anybody, you got all these Facebook groups now of, did I date him?
Yeah.
It's the name of
And
the
then
Facebook group.
and then he's going to look like,
they have one of these
he's
almost in,
lying.
like, they say, like, every city.
Oh, yeah,
There's
sure.
like, did I think it's called Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Or whatever it
is the name of the app.
Yeah.
Or I think the group, and there's one in most major cities that you can, and these girls they had, because of the podcast, they had somebody like call in and they were like, can you please help me try to talk to my friend? She's been roped in by this exact same person. And anyway, they go through this whole thing, and that's how they figured it out. The friends of that girl figured it out because they went on that Facebook group of, Are We Dating the Same Guy? And they had posted the picture and said the situation.
So they had to use it for proof.
They were
or
like,
whatever.
this is exactly what's happening to my friend. And like,
that's crazy.
It really, really is crazy and scary. So I only bring it up, one, because it was very interesting. Two, because if you have a daughter out there, you need to like have a conversation with them about this. If nothing else, not saying like who you're talking to is a lie, but like tell them about this and tell them what's going on and show them, some examples of things, or just talk through that of, these are things you need to be looking for. And like, if this is happening, this is a red flag. That we need to be talking more about red flags.
Yeah.
Like, that is a problem.
That's crazy.
A problem.
So I'm going to listen to this podcast now.
I don't believe you.
Right after I listen to our podcast.
Exactly, which is not going to happen. Anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about the LA fires.
Okay. The conspiracy around them?
Well, it's a hot topic. I shouldn't even. That's horrible.
Yeah. We feel terrible for everyone involved.
We do.
I'll tell you about one of my
There's so many
today,
layers.
But go ahead.
What? No, what?
Have you heard about LA 2.0?
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about, actually.
Yeah. I just saw that today.
Okay, so, some of the conspiracies, what I thought they were going to was it was connected to Diddy.
Yeah.
All these, they're trying to, the rich, or it's burning everything down. So one, either because the rich didn't vote for Trump, that this was Trump starting the fires to get back at them, or two, because they're all involved with the Diddy and they're trying to hide evidence, which makes no sense
what's
at
weird,
all.
what's odd to me is like, and I'm not saying Diddy doesn't have a house on the West Coast, because I'm sure that he does, but like, people realize Diddy was a New York guy. He was an East Coast guy.
That doesn't even make any sense to me.
Okay.
I think they're talking more about maybe all the stars going to his parties. Anyway, it doesn't
Pictures
matter.
or, whatever.
First and foremost, yes, I want to say it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
And it is...
It's huge.
It's
not like it's a fire. It's literally huge.
It's
spread everywhere.
$150 billion in damage at this point.
Yeah.
That was a couple of days ago. It is the biggest natural disaster to date in history, is what I heard today.
I've seen videos where when it was first starting, because the winds there were like 90 mile per hour winds.
Right. Where are those winds coming from?
From the water.
There's no...
Okay, don't be this conspiracy.
I'm just saying.
The winds are created.
Babe,
no,
there's no hurricane. Where are those winds coming from?
I don't know the answer to that. But
Anyway.
but I saw some videos where people were like, you could see the fire in the background. And when I say in the background, I mean a mile away, and you could still see ambers coming.
Yeah.
And so it was completely uncontrollable. But
it's very sad. And all these people online talking about, it's just a bunch of Hollywood people, they can afford it, whatever. That's crazy talk, because
we know from watching Housewives of everything, not all of them can afford it, for
well,
one.
that's true.
Yeah.
Just because you bought a house at one point in time doesn't mean you
or
can
just
go
because
replace
your
it.
ex-husband bought that house for you, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always the case, but and it doesn't matter. It's still people's lives. I mean, they still have families, they still have pets, they still have
correct, memories
in those houses.
And it's not just them. It's really, they're the minority. It is regular people that are out there that are losing their homes, and that's the thing that I honestly that makes me want to cry, because I had heard about a guy who this was happening. He was at work when they have an app. It's a tracker to say where the fires are and when you need to evacuate and whatever. And so, you could be watching it. Well, it apparently became an evacuation state while he was at work, and he tried to get back to his house. He begged begged them, let me get back to my house to get my dogs. They could not. The number of pets that have been lost because of situations like that is just insane. And
think about the anxiety that those pets have to have.
Yes,
when
I can't.
There's smoke filling the room.
I can't talk about that because I'm just saying there's a lot going on to it. But,
so what have you heard about LA 2.0?
So I haven't heard, I have heard it called LA 2.0, but it's basically, so they're talking about like how the wildfires got started. Could it be a firework? Could it be, there's like maybe a power company that said that one of their transformers might have sparked, which could cause the fires. The fireworks, obviously, they're outlawed completely. They're not allowed to have fireworks at all.
They have fires all the time anyways.
They do, but it's typically, I think, in like different months than it is right now. They said it could have been, just somebody hiking. People have cigarettes and smoke while they're hiking up there. Anyway, so there's a lot of different, conspiracies around that. The next thing that is real shady is this whole reservoir and the waters being empty. Have you heard about that?
I just heard that the fire hydrants have been empty. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
So LA has a reservoir that is 117 million gallons. It was empty. Do you know why it was empty?
No.
For maintenance. Do you know how long it's been empty?
Right before these fires started.
Since 2023. What maintenance are they doing on it? I saw a video. They walked out there. It looked like a
ditch.
A desert, a ditch. Yeah, it was just abandoned. There was nothing going on there. They say because the ceiling, the roof of it needed maintenance or something or other. Anyway, so there's a whole big conspiracy around, or there's a lot of talk about why. And they were asking the mayor, and she just looked at a wall and she didn't answer anything. And like
she's scared too.
Of course. And so they say that the funding for the firefighter, all of this, went down by like 17% last year, yet they increased the library funding by 14% because the libraries are going to, save people, lives, and property. And so anyway, the reservoirs are empty. Many of them are empty, no water, needing maintenance. They've defunded or cut back budgets of the firefighters, stuff like that. Then you've got these aircrafts that are called super scoopers. Do you know what those are?
No. Not the same as pooper scooper.
Not the same as a pooper scooper. These are super scoopers. These are $30 million planes. They have 1,600 gallons of water they can scoop up in 12 seconds. Like from an ocean, from a lake or whatever.
And then go drop it.
Drop it on the fire. They say they can release water as low as 100 foot. And they say they can go from these fires that are like in the Palisades to the ocean, scoop up that water, and be back in 5 minutes. I mean, it's just like doom, 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 doom. And
they've not used them.
No, they used it, but you know what happened? Fucking drone took one of them out, and they all had to be grounded. For like, I don't know, they said it was like 15 or 20 minutes, but they were like, you have no idea how these fires can spread in 15 or 20 minutes without being in anything to contain them. So a drone, do you know where this drone came from? Who the fuck was flying a drone when they said nothing like that can be in the air?
Somebody in the CIA.
Nothing is supposed to be in the air right now.
Somebody from the CIA.
I mean, who knows? I don't know. Supposedly, it's a photographer that was trying to take video of the fire. Of course. Ran into the fucking plane and busted it.
So what other conspiracy?
Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? So you don't have any water. Everything's been defunded, first of all. We also know to be true.
We are talking about California here, so let's be clear.
But, so State Farm had canceled many policies.
I heard 75,000 policies, but
why?
To their defense, this is what I read.
I know. Let's say why.
I read that for like the last 2 or 3 years, they have been pitching, saying to Governor Newsom that you guys have to do something about this brush, because you're supposed to cut trees, you're supposed to burn brush, you're supposed to do all these things to prevent these types of catastrophes, and they have been begging the government for the last 2 or 3 years to do this, and the government, meaning California,
correct,
refused to do this.
And if
then,
you don't, we are going to take this action.
correct.
And they finally took that action. So it just happens to be that California didn't do this we'll call it preventative care, right?
The reservoir.
They didn't do the preventative care. State Farm has canceled all of these policies. These people have houses that have burnt down and have no way to rebuild them. You've got a reservoir that has no water to be able to fight this ridiculous, crazy fire that who knows how it started. And then you got a fucking drone
knocking down a $30 million plane.
$30 million plane. You got a fucking drone that runs into the fucking plane and takes it out. Are you kidding me? So all of that leading up to could this be because we want the LA Smart City 2028, which I think is what you're talking about, LA 2.0.
Yeah. Which is what's happening in 2028.
Well, the Olympics.
The Olympics.
And you know what they said they want happening at the Olympics?
What?
They want no cars.
So they
want it to be a carless city.
So this smart LA, this LA 2.0, the only way that you could possibly do that is to wipe the slate clean.
Well, so it's a lot of AI, obviously, that they already have. They've got all the AI built out. So what's left? What do they need? How are they gonna build these high density housing? So you can go up very high. High density housing that they don't have now. Get rid of single family housing and build high density housing. Well, to do that, you got to have the land, right? How are you going to get the land?
Burn everything down.
Well, no, you could actually pay fair market value for it, right? To the people that are living there. If they don't want to sell, there's eminent domain. If they don't want to sell and you need that land to build
for the betterment of the community,
right, whatever it is, then you can force these people and take their land. You just have to pay them fair market value.
But fair market value in California is something that's unaffordable.
Right. So if you don't want to pay them fair market value, what's the other way to get rid of them?
Burn it down.
Burn it to the ground with insurance to rebuild. And it's not just these people. It's not just rich people. I think that's where the confusion is like you've got normal people out there that bought their houses in 1970, in 1980s, in the 90s. Like they have lived in these houses forever or passed them down to their generations because there's no way that you could afford to live there otherwise. Yeah. And
when people see Hollywood, they think just the Hollywood Hills. They think, and then not only do they think the Hollywood Hills, they think the top of the Hollywood Hills, where you see these
I did too.
multi-million dollar houses.
Even though I know that's not necessarily true, but I understand that. And they kept saying this on one of the podcasts that I was listening to, talking about the property taxes that they, have not been able to go up on their property taxes. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense because they just went up on our fucking property tax like stupid. And so I Googled it a little bit, and it said that in California, the property tax is assessed at the time of sale, and it is not reevaluated until it is sold again. However, they can increase it by no more than 2% per year.
Well, we're going to 4% here.
Right, but just think about that. Yeah. If you bought your house in 1980 at, what, $300,000 maybe? And now it's worth $1.2 million? There's no way that your 2% possibly per year going up is going to cover or be at what it would be if you built brand new construction and could charge property taxes based off $1.2 million. Like it's just, and maybe, again, I do love a good conspiracy theory. So
well, and I'm sure
take it for what it is. I'm just saying all of this stuff.
The guy who was talking about the Olympics today said it's a coincidence until it's not.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And that's really what a lot of this kind of boils down to. There's probably some level of truth in each of these things that are. But here's the thing, and I'm going to sound like a conservative asshole. California's fucked up. Yeah. When I tell you California and parts of New York are just completely off the rocker, those are the same people that think that all Trump people are racist and idiots and bigots and all this. No, they are that messed up.
Yeah, it's so messed up. They've had Mel Gibson has been on. I think he maybe has a movie that maybe he's trying to promote right now, but he was on the news. He was on Fox. Fox News had him on the news, and they were talking about this.
He's a loose cannon.
And Joe Rogan had him on too, and I was like, I gotta go hear about this and see what they were talking about. But I feel like there's just too much going on. Like, it is a bunch of distractions.
Yeah.
It's very scary, honestly. Like,
Well,
there's a lot of distractions going on right
and
now.
I think even California, like when we saw it in the election this year, that people are just so fed up with the woke, the cancel culture, the everything. People were so fed up with it that they had no other choice but to vote for Trump. And I think Californians at some point are going to have to start feeling that way. They have to understand it is so far out there and so un-American, if you will, that they're going to, I mean, at some point, they're even going to have to come to their senses.
150 billion at this point. So do you know that Biden has declared that the government will pay 100% of the damages for 180 days?
There's no way that's the case. That will cause a riot because you know what they paid when the floods happened in North Carolina?
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
They're idiots. They're just absolute idiots.
One of the guys on that podcast, he was saying his parents were actually in North Carolina and lost. They had trees down, all this damage or whatever, and FEMA sent them a check for $750.
Yeah.
And they were like, just to get the trees moved in our driveway for us to be able to get in and out of our residence.
Probably $2,000.
Oh, he said a stupid amount, which
Yeah.
I think was gouging also, but it's just a lot. It's not just this. It's like they're dealing with like looters now too. Like these looters are literally sitting out watching that same app to see who's supposed to be evacuating, waiting on these people to evacuate.
Go break in their house.
Yes.
Wow.
They were this one instance where they were literally, the people were packing their car and the looters were like, you're not
Stealing it
out
right from
quick
the car.
enough. No, slashed their tires, pissed because they were like, hurry up. Like, what the fuck y'all taking so long? Like, that's how bold.
Wow.
It is insane. It's so scary and so insane. So anyway, I know I went on a tangent.
I don't wish, and honestly, regardless of how effed up California is or some of the people that live there, like, you don't wish any of this on anybody.
No.
But
It's
but
devastating.
especially if there is some level of conspiracy and the uber elite or the government, like, I mean, I don't know. There's always going to be conspiracies, and with the internet, it's like conspiracy on steroids. I've never really been a huge conspiracy theorist, but it's like at some point, like the guy said, it's a coincidence until it's not.
Right? Is it a conspiracy, or is the internet allowing people to just real people like you and I, which I'm not going to say us because I'm doing hearsay basically. I'm not really researching a whole lot. I'm just doing what I've heard from other people, but the people out there that really are doing some research or digging or whatever, it's allowing people like us to be able to hear them versus just getting our news from
the news.
The news, which is controlled by
censored.
who? Right, exactly, by the government. They want to tell you exactly what they want you to know. So I don't know. It's scary. It'll be very interesting. I will 100% earmark this, write this down, put it somewhere
Not
that I want
earmark.
to earmark it. I'm going to earmark it so I can come back in 5 years and say, what the fuck happened?
I tried to tell you.
So anyway, one of the other things I thought kind of tied into this a little bit was on my walk with the dogs the other night, I ran into one of our neighbors and we were talking about her granddaughter who has just recently graduated from high school. And she didn't go off to college, but she is going to college. You know, she did dual enroll in high school and now she's like finishing it out. And the dynamic between the daughter and the mother, and I was like, oh God, everything that she's saying is very like familiar.
Yeah.
It's all very familiar sounding. And it just made me think, okay, do we talk about this a little bit? Because it is a very different dynamic when you have kids that have graduated high school, and you have two different scenarios. Usually they've graduated high school and they've gone off and gone to college. So like gone and actually stayed at a campus where
Independent.
Yeah.
Well,
essentially.
Yeah.
Sort of. Kind of.
As independent as they can
As
be.
independent as you can be, I suppose. Or you have the situation of they graduate high school and they're going to college, but it's here local and they're still living at home. And either way, doesn't matter, same age either way. And, you know, how do you treat them? Are you the college kid, I know how we did it because we experienced that with Jackson, and, Lauren did go away, for a year. And so when Jackson came home, it was definitely an adjustment we had to get used to, because he had left and we were like, what? We are empty nesters.
Walking around
like,
naked, even though we really didn't.
We really didn't. But
it was fun to think about.
Yeah, it was. It's fun to say we were, but we weren't. And so it was just, we didn't have to really, well, I worried about him. I constantly, I definitely sent him like, hey, I need proof of life. Like, I hadn't heard from you in a couple days. Like, text your mom. I'm not that helicopter mom. I never tracked him on an app. I don't know 100% where he is at all, points in time when he was that age. And so when he came home, I'm like, okay, we essentially got to kind of treat him like an adult. Like, it's the first time we had, I think, a football party when he had moved back home, let him drink here, because I'm like, oh, he's freaking partying it up at school. So what's the difference, really?
Yeah.
And that seems to be a point in life that parents are struggling with. So do you have any thoughts on it? Because now we've experienced it with Jackson. We moved through that whole situation. Well, now that we've got Lauren, who is living here, she has been off at college as well. Independent, I suppose. I don't know quite to the level. I don't know if she went out like Jackson went out or whatever. I get the sense that she really didn't, based on kind of some of the conversations we've had, or like, if we've had alcohol at the house, she's like, am I able to have can I taste that or whatever? And I'm like, I don't care. But the difference in dynamics of the way parents are about those kind of things.
I feel like it was more of a struggle with, for me personally, it was more of a struggle with Jackson than it was with Lauren. And I think
we all already know this.
I think part of it is because when Jackson was here, he very much kept his thoughts and his anger and his frustration to himself. He didn't really vocalize it. Right or wrong, before he left, that's kind of what he did. And I think when he went off to college, when he came back, he found this sense of voice, if you will. And I don't know if it was, I'm an adult now, you're not going to, whatever. And he was never like overly disrespectful or anything like that. But I felt like the lip was a little bit more when he came back than before he left. And I think that's where some of that kind of come into play. Whereas in Lauren, growing up, like, she's always, like, if she wanted to say something or was going to be a smart ass about something, she was going to be a smart ass no matter what. And so I don't know that there was as much of a quote unquote change. And I think there was more of a change with Jackson than there was with Lauren. But that we understand it too. Their situations were completely different. I mean, with him living here full time versus her and that kind of thing too. So I don't know. I also feel like it's a little different with like a boy and a girl. Like if Jackson was living here, at 21 years old or 20 years old or whatever, and he said, hey, I've got a girlfriend, can she stay here? I wouldn't have had any problem with it. But what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But if Lauren like dating somebody, can a guy stay here? No, thank you. Not at all.
That's kind of where, so there's several different levels to me of, it's the...
Even though when they were in college, if they wanted to stay with someone, they could.
Exactly.
It's just,
I know.
don't do it
it's
here.
Just, exactly. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the, you graduate high school one day and then, you start college, let's say that in a couple of months or whatever. And so it's like, when you come back, do you now still have like a curfew like you had in high school? Or did, some of these parents, I don't even think they had curfews, but our kids did. So it's like, do you still have a curfew when at college you kind of come and go and do what you wanted? How do you handle that situation? You've got some parents that have younger kids still at home while they might have an older kid that's gone off to college. It's, how are you trying to treat this kid that's now in college still like they were in high school, or, still like they're in middle school, and making them like babysit these kids, or, do they have to be home for dinner? And it's just like, what's the level of control? What's the right way to make this happen? And how do you make it easier, or how do you handle it? And then like, what What did your parents do? Because you went off to college.
Honestly, I think I was kind of a lot like Lauren and Jackson in this respect. Is like, even though I guess I had a curfew, like I wasn't like trying to stay out to all hours of the night. That's why I'm glad Lauren likes to sleep, because, she's going to be home at 10:30, 11 o'clock or whatever. Every now and again she'll come home a little bit later than that. But I feel like when I was growing up, my parents would be like, okay, be home at midnight or whatever. And the older I got, it was like, I think that they just slept through it. It's like no news is good news kind of thing. To me, that's really the biggest thing is I try to like stay awake and know that she's there, but she does a good job of saying, hey, I'm about to leave. And, we know how long it is for her to get home. And so if I'm awake or can wake, I'll look at my phone and say, okay, I've not heard anything. It's been, whatever. So, but I don't, like I was never, I'm coming home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and neither were they. And so it's never really been that much of an issue. I think, where we could probably do a little bit better of a job is like, with my sister's family, my 2 nephews still live at home with them. They're both graduated, working full time, going to school, whatever. And one of the things that they do, which I think is a good idea, is they make the boys cook dinner at least once a week for the family. And they're the type of family that's going to eat dinner together, no matter what. But the boys have a choice. They could cook anything they want. They got to go to the grocery store. They got to get it. Or if you don't want to cook, you're taking the family out for dinner. So I think that one of 2 ways, you're either teaching them like how much it really does cost to go out to eat, and number 2 is you're also kind of teaching them if you are going to cook at home, you have to know how to cook. You got to learn some of the basics. So I think anytime that you can introduce little stuff like that, that's not like, monumental or anything like that, but you're still kind of teaching them, because that's really the last little bit of time that you have to say, look, you're going to be out on your own when you get your own house or apartment or whatever you're going to do. I've got to take advantage of this last little bit of time to teach you how to make a blizzard in a in a blender versus
right,
exactly. A mixer, but
exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've both been very lucky in that the fact that neither one of our kids are really troublemakers. Anything that we consider bad, it pales in comparison to a lot of people.
Yeah, but I'm talking more like, do they have a curfew?
No.
How do you do about them wanting to spend the night? Or, do
they
you allow them to?
Like I said, if Jackson wanted to, or his girl, it wouldn't have bothered me. I knew you wouldn't have allowed it.
It's okay, you're talking about here. What if they want to go somewhere else?
If it was Jackson, wouldn't care. Lauren, I would not like it. If it was Jackson, I'd be like, hell yeah, bro. No, I'm just teasing. No, but it's
that's a hard one. God almighty, that's a hard. I don't like it. The way I grew up, that was a no-go.
Well,
that did not happen at my house.
Like,
however, I did spend the night at the guy's house.
Yeah.
After I got out of high school, when I was in college, but it was, God, I don't even remember how I even came to having that conversation with my mom.
Well, it's even like the drinking thing. I mean, fortunately, neither one of them, we didn't have to worry about that a whole lot. But it was like, I think we were always clear that, look, you've gone off to school. We know if you wanted to drink there, you could, whatever. You just got to be careful. But here, if you go somewhere and you want to have a drink, whatever, you're at a house party or what, call me.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Right.
I don't care. I'm not going to judge you, whatever. I am going to judge you if you decide to get behind that wheel.
Right.
Whatever. But fortunately, like I said, neither one of them, of course, like Jackson, I mean, he's older now, but even over the last few years or whatever, Ashley's not a drinker, which is good because the few times a year Jackson does decide to drink, we know that he's going to get home safely because Ashley doesn't drink. And then, Lauren has kind of had a couple drinks here and there while here at the house, and
so
we see how that goes.
You keep saying it's a no-go, but you're not really answering my question. So
what part is a no-go?
Lauren decides she wants to stay at the boyfriend's house. How do you handle it?
I don't know. How do you define no-go? Because to me, a no-go is no. Like, I don't understand how you...
Well, so they're an adult. Can you tell them no?
I don't know.
You got to come home?
So I think that, we've kind of talked about her relationship with the guy she's dating and whatnot. Like, I think if it was, they were really close, we were really close with them, and they were here all the time, and I could really see how this guy was and how he treated her. And I think if it was that, maybe that type of relationship, I feel like I'd probably feel a little bit differently about it. I wouldn't want it to be a regular thing, to be honest with you. But if we went on vacation together and
Yes.
let's say there were, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, whatever, and it required, 2 of them, like that part wouldn't bother me. Like I'd be like, hell, y'all are 20, 21, y'all, if you wanted to,
Like we did with Jackson and Ashley,
yeah,
3 or 4,
like
whatever,
that part,
many years ago.
wouldn't bother
Yeah,
me.
but they were in the same room with Lauren and
Yeah,
her friend. It was just
yeah.
two queen beds or
But
whatever.
even if it wasn't, I don't think something like that would bother me. I think that where I would not like it is if it was on a regular basis, like you're like every single night or every weekend or what, which is odd because when I came home from college, that's probably what I did. You know what I mean?
I know that's the tricky part. That I don't know. It's very hard. So it's like that's a real fine line of
For
you know,
us,
you're
it
an
just
adult, but yet
hasn't.
you are still living in my house. So I
Yeah.
do need to have some rules. Like
Yeah.
you need to be an adult as far as like you're gonna do your own laundry and you're gonna still help pick up around the house and you're gonna clean up after yourself and these type of things. And if you are not coming home, then we need to sit down and talk about these situations first, and then you need to let me know because I should not have to stay up until 1 o'clock at night trying to figure out are you coming home
Yeah.
or not coming home, especially if I got to get up and go work that next day. Like that's not okay.
Well, and that's why with Lauren doing the way she does it, like I've been fine with
But
that.
that night where we had this situation happen, I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was the one, you were like, and I was like checking my phone. I'm like, I don't think, and I looked upstairs. I'm like, the door's shut. I think maybe she's home, but like, I don't know if she's home. And I could not relax and go to sleep because I did not know.
Yeah.
And our freaking cameras, I don't even know how to access them anymore.
I think fortunately for us, like I said, it's not been that much of an issue. Like neither one of them pressed it. She doesn't, he didn't, and I don't know if it was just because it was assumed. I don't know. Maybe y'all are having conversations that I wasn't a part of, but I can see how it would be could be a real issue. I think it really just boils down to, the respect that the parent has for the kids have for the parents. How it's communicated. Like, I think about Landman when he's like, just lie to me. And so she calls it Bible study or whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm sitting here saying, golly, like if I were her dad, like it would be hard. But
I had a boyfriend in college, and he lived, I don't know, we'll say 45 minutes away. He was close to the college, but I would go see him and stay, and the weather would start turning bad. And so, my mom was on it. But there weren't cell phones. So she was like calling the house, like, okay, you need to go ahead and come on home. I'm like, okay, I will. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, I think, Mom, it's too bad. I'm scared. I don't want to drive home. Pulling one of those things. And I stayed one time, and I think that was it. From then on out, she was like, she reeled that control in a little bit more, and she's like, no, the weather's not looking good today. I think you just need to stay home.
If that's what you're going to try to pull
Right,
on me
exactly.
again.
And I get it, because when the weather was not bad, I did one night, that was the first car accident that I had. I fell asleep behind the wheel coming home because it was
Which is very easy to do.
It's very easy to do, but it was very late. It was very dark. Had worked, had gone to school, whatever, and stayed there so late that I was very tired. And I ran off the road, hit a guardrail, totaled my car. Lucky I'm alive. And no cell phones, dark interstate, and it was a trucker that pulled over for me. I, without a thought in the world, got up in this trucker's cab and stayed in there, and he called like the police, or he like radioed, trucker 19 or whatever. Thank God I'm alive. I don't know how I'm alive.
Wow.
Not sure how I'm alive.
That's crazy. When I think back on those days, you're so tired, you're rolling the window down, the cold air, just to kind of, you're slapping yourself in the face. It's just like
music's turned up wide.
Yeah,
loud.
when I think back on that, those days were far more dangerous
Than just
driving than any time I've ever had a drink and got. You know what I'm saying? Like it just, Like that it's just like,
that's not a good thing to say. I don't think that's
well,
a good comparison.
no,
I know
okay.
what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
but that's not. I don't think that's the right.
Yeah, we
message.
try to be very careful when we go out, making sure we know who's driving and all that stuff, getting Uber. I'm not suggesting that at all, but what I'm saying is
Sleepy driving is just as dangerous.
just as dangerous.
Yes,
yeah.
that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous as well. Neither are good to do.
Yeah.
So but that made me think about that when Lauren texted that night finally and was like, which I guess we didn't see until the next morning. I guess I finally did go to sleep, but I had a very hard time. And I thought for sure, like when she came in, the dogs would
She typically does a pretty good job of sneaking in.
It's hard. Anyway, so I don't know that we gave anybody any kind of solution for that. I thought maybe we'd work through it and figure out some solutions on parents and how they can handle it. Well, you can't really give solutions
until you know how the kids are and what the situation. Everyone's situation is different. Like, I don't know that we're going to be able to.
I guess I'm just giving a PSA that if you are a parent who a kid is fixing to go off to college, like they're at home now, they're fixing to graduate, they're fixing to graduate. That's really the deal. Yeah. They're fixing to graduate. Once they graduate high school, like you need to give them some space. Give them some space. Give them some leeway. I understand what makes the difference in a graduated kid versus the kid 3 months earlier or 3 months later. It is a difference. Like they would typically be going off to college. If they're going to be going off to college, and even if they're not, they're that age to do that. They need some space. It's time for them to grow up a little bit, and you've got to back up Mama Bear and let them do that.
But if you are in our let's give advice era, then what I would say is for couples, you have got to communicate.
Yes.
Because this is a huge thing, and it is something that can make or break relationships. It's something that can make or break the relationships with the kids. It's something that could cause that kid to say, well, fuck it, I'm going to go live with so-and-so, or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go get in trouble, or I'm going to start rebelling. I mean, like, the relationship here has to be based on communication, because if you and I aren't on the same page, it's going to come across to that kid.
I feel like I see this probably more so in daughters, like moms and daughters, that relationship. Yeah. Because I think a lot of parents, especially with that Life 360,
it's more of a safety concern.
It is. It's very much a safety concern. And so there is that much more, Hawkeye. Like,
I don't think anyone's going to be trying to pick Jackson up in a parking lot. But they could to a daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a big difference.
Correct. I mean, there's other concerns with boys or whatever. But yeah, I suppose you're right. So I don't know.
But the main thing is the couples, the relationship needs to communicate. Everything always gets back to communication, and you need to communicate with the kids. I mean, like maybe they're assuming that everyone's expectation is the same, and maybe it's not, or maybe they're assuming the worst, or maybe they're assuming the best, and it's really just okay. Let's sit down and talk about now that you're going to be back, for 2 months over holidays, or now you're going to be back because you decided to go a different path in school. Like we really need to figure out what this means for everyone involved.
And sometimes you just got to let them make those mistakes, and they are going to make the mistakes. And sometimes you give them trust until they have
burned it or whatever.
No longer earn that trust. But you've got to give them some leeway to do some of that stuff. Obviously, we want to keep them safe, but it was just interesting because I was walking the dogs and we had that conversation, and the granddaughter, it might come live with them, because of the situation with the mom and the control, and it's like just treating her, like
So real quickly, what is the name of that podcast? We want to give somebody something.
Something was wrong.
Hold on. We want to give our audience something to listen to right after they listen to our podcast. So tell me the name of it.
Something was wrong.
Yes.
I believe it is season 20.
Something was wrong or something is wrong?
Something was wrong.
Okay. Right after you listen to Life's Little Arguments. It's on your papers, and between the two things they can figure it out. But it's right after you listen.
And you can search it on TikTok while it's still available. You could probably put in "Something Was Wrong" as the podcast. You can put in Jess Catfish. You can Brody. Jess and Brody. Yeah. Jess and Brody catfishing. Like you will get down. You will find somebody who is doing something, talking about it, and be able to figure that out. So it was interesting to me. And I hope that happens too.
We got to wrap this. No, we got to wrap this.
That we know.
We're over an hour for sure. So
for shizzle. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Love you, babe. Deuces.
Thank y'all so much again for joining us. We love y'all so much. If you have been enjoying this podcast, please consider giving us a rate and review. And if there's somebody that you think would love it as well, please share it with them. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Mwah.